Ever wondered how some producers crank out label-ready tracks so fast it almost feels like cheating? I used to get stuck on tracks for weeks, even months, just like Nate, one of our students. He could barely finish a track a month, but after learning our MPA 6-hour workflow, Nate now finishes 2 tracks a week, fills his calendar with label signings, and even caught the attention of Nora En Pure. So today I'm going to show you exactly how he did it, and how you can use this method to finish tracks at lightning speed and get labels interested. Most producers too are stuck in this endless loop of tweaking, overthinking, and never finishing, and feeling frustrated. Nate was there too.
So before it was a struggle, it was probably one track every month, I would say.
So what changed? It wasn't magic, it was workflow.
The workflow is like a game changer. Yeah. Even if you don't have the ideas there, even if like you're feeling not inspirational, you've given me the tools, you've given all of us the tools to push through that and to find like that inspiration. And
Nate's turnaround wasn't luck or talent. It was a simple shift in process. You can follow the same process so that after this, you'll never be stuck on a track ever again. Here's how it breaks down. Firstly, phase 1. Build out the climax as quickly as possible. There are 5 steps to follow in phase 1 that achieve this super quickly. Step 1. Build out the foundation. Depending on genre, you have 2 options for starting points. For genres where harmony and melodics are the most important, such as melodic house, deep house, and progressive house, I guess, start with the chords and harmony. For most other styles, I recommend starting with the low-end groove. For both, it's good to throw in a simple shaker or percussive loop, give you a feeling of time and rhythm, and also an atmospheric drone in the key of the track to give you a vibe to compose to. Then, if you started with the chords, move to the low-end and groove. And vice versa, if you started with the low end and groove. Focus on good sound selection. This will solve so many issues down the line with mixing if you already have good sounds that work together well. Step 2, build out the rest of the drums. Proper drum programming is critical because if you have bad drums, nobody's going to be dancing, believe me. And this means more than just an offbeat hat and a clap/snare. Think syncopation, percussive layers, and more. Step 3 is to add in the harmonics and rhythmic support. Here we're talking about additional plucky layers, supporting pads, chords, or textures. Elements that are going to fill out the space, make the track feel fuller and more sophisticated, but without taking away from the core components, and give us some wiggle room in the arrangement for storytelling. More on that shortly. Step 4, the centerpiece of the track. Now, think what the main hook component will be, whether that's going to be an instrumental melody, a vocal, or even some weird percussive sound to catch the ear. This is the most important part of everything, so make sure this pops, and it's worth spending a bit of extra time hashing out a couple of options and choosing the best one. Because if you don't have a hook, your track will be forgettable, have a short shelf life, and labels are never going to sign it. Step 5, the static mixdown. So think of the static mixdown as like a rough sketch before you paint in all the detail. Aim for about 70 to 80% of what it may sound like in the final mixdown. Don't spend more than 5 to 10 minutes on an element, just keep moving forward, get out of the mindset of constantly tweaking stuff forever to get it perfect. Perfection comes later.
Just keep going, just keep pushing, keep moving forward, get the track done. It doesn't matter because you learn so much from doing it.
And further to this, it's not worth getting too caught up making things perfect because everything's going to change massively in the next phase anyway once we break out of the loop. So with these 5 steps, you can easily get to the static mixdown within 60 to 90 minutes, and maybe less once you get some reps in. With this, Nate started focusing on moving forward and not getting stuck, perfecting tiny details that don't actually matter in the bigger picture. Okay, so now we've gotten quickly to the loop. How do we get the track finished and label ready? Now, this is usually the part where most producers get stuck, making a bunch of loops but never progressing any further. Nate was one of them until we unpacked this concept for him properly with an easy and simple process to use over and over again.
When I sit down and I come up with an idea and then in a day I've arranged it, I'm like, what just happened? I think I blacked out. I don't even know did I just do that?
It's so unbelievable when it all clicks, so let's make it click for you too. Phase 2 is to get the structural arrangement down. In other words, the macro level structure or key events that take place within the track. Now we've got the climax loop, we know we're the destination, So the fun part is coming up with the journey. You've got two approaches. The first is a little bit longer, but is better for newer producers. Method 1, the reference track approach, is great for beginners or if you're stuck with loops. Bring in a really well-produced track from your genre into your DAW, and copy the structure and drop your elements in. Don't overcomplicate, just get it down rough and keep moving. I typically recommend starting with the drum structure first. You may find that in some sections you need to add in some additional supporting elements. That's totally fine and part of the process. Don't worry too much at this point about transitional effects like risers, sweeps, and downers. Just get the skeleton structure down first. From doing this a few times, you'll see that actually there aren't that many structural arrangements for tracks in your genre. They all follow a very similar pattern and structure, and once you know them, well, just pick one and roll with it, and you won't need a reference again. The second method, or the natural improviser, is faster and more advanced. Now this is the better option, but you'll need to understand first how to use a reference track. Essentially, you just start by making structural decisions like, okay, there'll be a 16-bar intro, then the bass comes in, the first drop will be around 32 bars, so on and so forth. And you make the decisions when things will happen. Start with the drums first, like before, build it all out. This method will help you become much more of a sophisticated storyteller and take your listeners on more of a journey. And this is exactly what labels are looking for. Storytelling, because in this way you're doing what's right for your track, not just copying a reference, as every track is different, but you can follow a similar pattern. The key, don't get stuck replaying over and over and over again, just keep moving forward no matter what. Alright, so now that you got the skeleton down, here's where you take it from something that sounds amateur to that professional label-ready sound. Now, what the overwhelming majority of producers don't fully understand is that there are actually two parts to the arrangement. There's the macro level structure that we literally just covered in phase 2, but then there's the micro level automation, which supercharges the tension and release in your music. And most producers don't do the micro level stuff, or at least anywhere near the level that's required. And that's why their tracks aren't getting signed.
To make things more interesting, to stand out a little bit. Automation. every time I sit there, I've literally wrote it on the front, in front of my wall, saying more automation. So I have you in my head. Every time I'm doing it, I hear you say, no, Nate, more automation. You need more automation. You need it. You are right. There are, I'd say 90% of, I've been fortunate to work with a couple of top producers. They don't do half of that automation. It's crazy.
Automation is what we do to make our track feel like a living, breathing entity. The process of changing parameters on synths and/or effects over time. This makes our sounds evolve over time to complement the structure that we laid out to create tension and release. So go sound by sound. I typically recommend starting with the bass first, and choose a parameter to play with and draw in the lines. This is typically where you spend the most time of the whole process, and by the end of this phase you'll have a metric ton of red lines on your screen. This is the sign that you've done it right, and you should hear how much more tension and release you have, especially during transitions. Speaking of, this is where you throw in your transitional effects like the risers. They're there to emphasize what you've already done through the automation. And remember, like I said in phase 1, where we would do the static mixdown and not to worry about getting it perfect, this is exactly why, because all of our sounds are now dynamic and changing over time. The balance is constantly evolving and changing, and we're dealing with moving parts now. Now, I know this sounds like we're trying to shoot a bullet with another bullet, but don't freak out because it's nowhere near as complicated as it sounds, and we can easily tame this in the final phase next. This is where we cross the finish line, but it's also where we encounter the final boss of unfinished tracks, the dreaded over-tweaking and perfectionism demon. But here's what you might not realize.
Perfection doesn't exist, but if you don't chase it, you can't make anything great. So I live by that saying. So there's not such thing as a perfect mix or a perfect this. It's good enough.
The good news is we've already done the heavy lifting and we're on the home stretch. Let's not overcomplicate it. So what I recommend to do is taking a short break, just go to the other room, make yourself a drink or have a snack. Or if you're British like me, get yourself a cup of tea, and have a little bitch about how it's always raining. The purpose of this is to just refresh your ears and not think about this track for a short while. And once we're back, we're going to use a super advanced piece of technology here. This is the real secret sauce to finishing tracks quickly. You ready? A pen and paper. So go to the start of your track, press play, move your mouse and keyboard away from you. Do not touch them until the end. And all you got to do is write down everything that needs to be fixing with timestamps. And once the track's played all the way through, we have one task and one task only. Go through the list and cross out everything and do nothing more. So spend about 30 minutes to an hour tops fixing this to the best of your ability, and then leave it alone. There's a point of diminishing returns that once you hit, you're done. Now the track is going to be finished and almost ready for mastering. But there is one crucial part that should not be overlooked. When your track is done, get feedback from someone with good ears, ideally a mentor or coach or an experienced producer that knows what they're listening for. If all you hear are tiny tweaks, then it's probably time to release. But speed is only half the story. How do you know when your tracks are actually ready for labels? Sure, we might be fast now, but when does the quality come? The more tracks you finish, the faster and better you get. You get good and quicker, and by extension label ready, like Nate, through volume.
You're not going to be perfect, and perfect doesn't exist. You can just only keep pushing and getting better and better, and it works. It works.
And so the quicker you can get tracks finished, the quicker you can get better, and the quicker you get noticed by labels and artists you want. For Nate, the turning point was when his first official release was picked up by Nora En Pure.
It got picked up by Nora En Pure and played on her radio show. First release. I was like, oh my God. So yeah, that was, I think it brought me to tears a little bit there, because, we work so hard at our craft and it's everything to me. So that was great.
And in just 3 months, using this exact workflow and getting feedback on what he was doing, Nate improved at an unbelievable rate, both objectively through what I saw, but also with his confidence, which arguably is more important.
Literally covered for the next, 6 months or so. The guy from Hathor in here was just, I'd love to do one a month if we can. It's been crazy. I never expected that from a record label. I've always wanted to have a release on it. I think it was really impressed by what happened on the first release. It's obviously hard to get on Nora's radio show, let alone for your first one. So I just said, look, I love everything you're sending to me. It's always been a yes.
And Nate's proof that if you put in the work and change your workflow, using this one we've just shown you, you can finish more music, get signed, and start making noise and music.
You and Tim have created something that's very, very special. Not only that, it's you guys care.
If you're ready to finish more music, fill your calendar with releases, and finally get some recognition that you deserve with your music, check out the link in the description and feel free to reach out. We can chat with you about helping you achieve more with your production game. If you're not ready just yet, no sweat. Watch this video next, which shows you how to fix a ton of issues with your mixdown so you can get your tracks label ready much quicker.